This is the classic textbook definition. So, and let's say it is binary, introvert and extrovert. There is a word that exists. Introverts find solutions, joy, peace within, in a calmer environment, and the same extroverts find joy perhaps in a crowded environment. That's all. However, the same person, when put in front of people, all right, and both eventually the output or the expectation from them is exactly the same. So to your point, someone kind of told me that even Prime Minister Modi is a very introvert person, but he's a public figure because he goes into isolation, right? And that's just a persona. He has to dispense his work there, but all the thinking happens internally. But to another person, all the thinking happens in an environment of crowd. And that's the
shift from where I did with technology, right? I suddenly realized that after working, I told you about my hospital stay. I just suddenly realized that, listen, I love being with people. Yeah. What am I doing with systems?
Yeah.
And thankfully, I chose the right profession, or probably it was not by choice, by accident. I came into this profession today is all about people.
True.
Right? It's your team, it's
True.
your customers, it's your end users, it's your suppliers. It's all about people. There's no product.
True. Are you ready? Oh, rolling. So capture all this.
Yeah.
This is excellent. So this is the most candid moment we've already captured. Salam, Namaste, Sat Sri Akal, Adab, and I have a very special guest. So Nama Bengaluru as well. He is Ajit Kumar. He is the managing director for JLL for the work dynamics for the West of Asia. But I'm super happy today, and I'll tell you why. I've had a 2-hour conversation prior to this particular recording, and I can tell you with certainty, his predecessor of JLL is a dear friend of mine. He spoke to me about him several months ago. His colleagues, his direct reportees spoke to me about him several months ago. People who I know in JLL, maybe some other verticals, spoke to me about him several months ago. And when I encountered the conversation prior to this recording, I can tell you for a fact, he's such a humble, such a kind, such a gentleman, but has risen up through the ranks. So this is for everyone who doesn't believe in the laddering up effect. Ajit has seen in his last 25 years, 28 years of his professional experience, just about everything that a CEO or a managing director's grind could be. And it's such an absolute joy to have him on this Power Talk with Kunal Vasudeva. Ajit, firstly, welcome.
Thank you.
On this show, and thank you so much. And I just have to ask you this question. How come you're such a beautiful man? And your eyes says it all. Your colleagues say the same thing about you. Your body language says it. And when you have this 360-degree feedback kind of coming in, it's amazing that you could be all powerful, yet also kind, yet also humble. Is it the upbringing, or is it what is it? I'm trying to decode that from every leader, for that matter.
Oh, thank you so much, Kunal, for that introduction. Tough question, and I've been thinking. Okay, so probably I think it's a lot to do with how at a young age you're always asked to, before you do anything, look at someone else's perspective of the whole thing. When you're with someone, always put yourself in that person's shoes. Have that perspective about it. Your ability to put someone else's views about it, and not just your views. It's nothing about I mean, it can be about you, but it's also about someone else you're interacting with. And I think that's what we call empathy today. And that's so important for anybody in a leadership position to be able to understand where someone's coming from, helps you look at someone else's point of view, relate to it, and probably look back and say, hey, listen, I was not right in this whole twist. That person was, and say that's the right way to go. I think it's a lot to do with.
But do you believe empathy is caught, CAUGHT, or is it taught?
I think it's caught. It's taught. Sorry.
Is it taught?
It's taught.
Yeah.
I would say taught. It's not. You can learn it at any age. It's just about keeping your mouth closed and listening to what someone else has to say and genuinely reflect upon it. It's not just listening. You need to reflect upon it. And all of us, including me, have this saying that, okay, I have a thought in mind. I'm very strong about what that means. But, and when someone else tells me, I'm not just listening to that person, I'm just hearing him out. And there's a difference between these two things. Genuinely listen, and you could think that you become a better person as you go in, and helps you personally.
You can't be here and me not asking you about this entire changing landscape of work dynamics, your department, your vertical business vertical here in India. But genuinely tell me, you started off your career, and when we were talking off camera as well, from hospital operations, right? You come from a science background, you got into an operating environment. The love for people rather than technology was something that was an automatic driver for you. But if you see a sense of 20, 25 years of that evolution of work dynamics in India, can you just take us through that? How every 5 years or a decade has completely changed the work dynamics in India?
So work dynamics is something that we deal with office spaces, occupier requirements. So let me just shift to the other side of the whole story, and we adapt to the change that's there in the environment. What's really changed is, if you look at offices, initially they were very transactional. Like, for example, I come to office for a particular transaction, so I need a desk, right? I mean, as far as the desk was there, a chair was there, and air conditioning was running, my elevator was working, all that is fine, so it's transactional. I come. It's moved from there to today. It's very experiential. I mean, if I come to office, I come for an experience. And it's very interesting that we use similar words in maybe the hotel industry, right?
Correct.
And that's where it's coming to. But that's the first big shift that's happened, from being a transactional place where I go to work to a place where I have an experience of this whole thing. And if you look at it, the entire buildings that you see that are coming up, or probably the campuses that you see that are coming up, are hugely different from what it was. It was just a gate, an entry, an access card, and you walked in. To, let's say, you've come to the JLL office. The first thing that you see in an office is the barista.
Yeah.
Right? It just, and a sense of openness, and not just desks that are there across, which kind of attracts people. So that's the first big shift that we've seen. The second thing that, post-COVID has become more prominent is this whole flexibility and hybrid that we've seen, right? One desk being used by 3 people. It was typically normal in a BPO industry, which worked in multiple shifts, but not an office which worked in, let's say, a 9 to 6 shift. 3 people using the same desk. People had, their personal things kept on the table.
Was COVID the trigger?
COVID was a trigger of, I would say, acceleration or catalyst.
Got it.
Wasn't a trigger. It was being done. But now it's become very common, or being used in more offices than the BPOs, which were always doing it in terms of, let's say, but that was being done in every shift. Now, in the same 9 to 6, today I could come, tomorrow someone else, tomorrow morning someone else you could come in. So that's the second big shift. The third is around the focus around sustainability. This was not a conversation topic when I started my career. I mean, it was not. And today we have young children coming up and saying, what's the carbon footprint? What are we doing? The amount of community that we have. What is plastic being used inside this office? What are we doing towards that? Do we want to? And there are councils, which are green councils, which are there in office spaces, that are a group of employees talking about how do we move that. So sustainability has become a big thing, not just from a organization perspective where we say we become carbon neutral, but also a purpose for a lot of employees who are coming in.
And this
generation.
largely 5-7 years with this generation, this conversation is more pronounced.
This generation is speaking more. There was a generation in between, or probably the group, and not by generation I don't really mean a generation in
I
terms
get
of
it.
age. I mean the group, the same group moving in phases. There was something in between which primarily said,
So evolution of thought within the same
generation.
Got it.
Look at me. I mean, for example, I don't come from a generation where sustainability was a big deal.
True.
But then I have experienced the climate before, and I am experiencing the climate today. But my thought process has changed. I mean, I would think twice before using a plastic bag today than I used maybe 10 years back. I come from an era where milk was delivered in glass bottles.
True.
Right? I mean, during my younger days,
so right.
plastic sachet today. I'm thinking to myself, saying, is there something that I can change? So I think there's been an evolution in terms of the people, all of us, right? Every one of us, irrespective of generation, but particularly the current generation is even more aware, and they have a lot more information about the whole sustainability aspect. So that's the...
So buildings are being designed from that green effect perspective, right? Being carbon neutral. JLL drives that aspect of the experience.
Yes.
But do clients also expect that from you today? You're saying, okay, if you're giving me the experience within this complex, this is the minimum standard that we will expect from you.
Yes.
And I'm talking about from a sustainability
From
perspective.
a sustainability perspective, I can't think of one client that we have globally who's not talking about sustainability. Everybody does understand it's not because of business, but everybody understands that this is the right thing to do. And when it's the right thing to do, people follow. I mean, initially there's a push that's required for doing anything, but once you genuinely believe this is the right thing to do, I think we do it. JLL as a firm, we've invested heavily into the whole sustainability aspect. We have committed to our net zero targets, even to scope 3 emissions, which means that clients that we work with also have to be net zero.
Oh, wow.
So
it's like a 360 degree.
It's a 360 degree. So we have a team of almost 40, 45 people working with us in terms of the whole sustainability aspect and looking at different ways of doing it. In the last couple of years, we launched something called the Sustainable FM Services, or the Facility Management Services, where we kind of have around 200, 300 things that you can do without really incurring a cost. So we're taking those small steps and also the large ones to look at. So we are even today a part of a consortium which is looking at opportunities to where the supply chain becomes green. For example, cement and steel. There's a lot of emission that happens as you make cement and steel. It's not the end, but also the supply. So we're trying to get the entire life cycle to become clean and green.
I remember asking, what intrigues me is, so every country goes through that growth phase, right? US in the 60s, China in the last 20, 30 years. How do you still kind of balance rapid exponential growth with sustainability at the same time, especially because sustainability comes at a cost, right? Are we willing to absorb that cost, or maybe because eventually it will show in its bottom line, and the margin calls that every company has. How do you really kind of balance that? That's a good argument to have. But I also kind of believe that when you speak about sustainability, and you'll agree, it's very pronounced, at least in the last 5 to 7 years. It's come into everybody's vocabulary. Change happens, Ajit, when it comes into our vocabulary, and then it comes into a mindset, and then subconsciously we start kind of in our own small way, we start doing it. Of course, policies, regulations, and a lot of, I would say, fines also have to be levied for a society to align it in a certain way. What are your thoughts?
We all believe as leadership, and when you run organizations, you could save a few paisas today, but if you want to earn the rupee tomorrow, you might as well do it today, because all of us, what we're doing is to create lasting organizations that can continue for a longer period of time. And sustainability is the true north. It's real. It's real for us to see. If we don't do anything about it today, probably in the next 8 to 10 years, we would be paying double the cost to run the same thing.
I'm with you.
So it could be a little bit of a more cost, but JLL we were talking about buildings and things like that, right? It makes business sense. There was a time when green buildings or pure green buildings had a premium,
Got it.
right? Today, it's not a premium.
It's
it's
a
gift,
new
right?
norm, yeah.
But what will happen, maybe in the next 1 or 2 years, is a brown discount, which means that if your building is not green, you'll have to give it at a lower rental, or probably a valuation of your building could be lower
Right.
than a green building. So it's moving from a green premium
Got it.
to a brown discount.
Wow.
So it does make business sense to be able to do that, right? A lot of organizations, when we go in and have bids, we are asking, what's your sustainability vision? What are your targets? And it does make a difference, because large organizations have also said that we will only work with organizations which have a vision and focus on sustainability.
And do you believe, because you're part of so many forums as well, Ajit, that this will become the norm? That means this is the minima standards that we will adopt in India, and there has to be like a super green or a super something else, but green is the new norm.
Yeah.
And then you ladder up. Is that something that you've seen?
And that's what I meant by
The
brown
brown
discount, right? If you don't give it at what I need
got
today, it's like a second sale, for example, right?
I got it.
Export surplus, what we call
I
it.
got it.
It's probably going to go at a lower than what the market is running at, and that's going to be the norm.
And it's my view as well. The early indicator of a growth in any country, whether at a manufacturing side or perhaps whether it's on the corporate side. The corporate side would be that newer complexes are coming out for corporates, and that's 4 years, 5 years in advance. And from a manufacturing side, it's at least about 2 year cycle, because the capital cycle takes that long to build a factory. Give me a sense of where is India today, right? Forget the stock markets, forget it's been completely, the Nifty has fallen and the stock exchange by the time you're recording this. But if you just keep that noise aside, are you seeing and if you index the number to, let's say, 1 million square feet, assume in all of India you have 1 million square feet today. Give me a sense of what's really happening, how much more is in construction stage.
Okay. The place where we are at, we're seeing growth at a very fast pace, right? We still are an economy as what is called as a sub-dollar rental, or around the dollar in terms of rental, which is the lowest at a global scale. Second, we have the highest number of graduates who are being turned out on an annual basis. Right? We are seeing a lot more interest from American and European companies to come and set up offices over here, because of our education, sub-dollar rental, ability to communicate, speak English.
Of course.
Multiple things like that. We have
and just an intelligent society at the end of the day.
And we have the lowest in terms of age demographics, right?
True.
Our average age is 28 years. I mean, you can't find another country with all these factors. And just to give you a sense of what we actually absorbed, or net absorption, what we call it, or absorption, what we call it in the real estate world, which is primarily new real estate space.
Okay.
80 million square foot in 2024.
Okay, what do you mean by that? Can you just...
The amount of space that people have taken, new commercial space that people
over and
have,
above 23.
Yeah. This is what people have taken. It could be a combination of some people letting go space and all that stuff, but 80 million square foot is what we took in terms of absorption, right? Not too many countries can boast of that. Some countries might even boast of a total commercial space of 80 million.
80 million, true.
And we still have space and opportunity to grow, which means that we have states more friendly. We have government schemes which are more friendly. You have a stable government. You have a good economy, good
infrastructure,
reserves, and education. Age on your side. It's a great place to be in at this point.
But tell me something. Do you also kind of believe that when you take a Bengaluru, for instance, right? It's saturated at the end of the day. Do you think pretty much when you look at, let's say, the US, right? You look at outside of New York from a city perspective, and you have Boston and you have the other adjoining satellite cities. Do you think we will adopt a model like this where, let's say, Bengaluru and maybe 200 kilometers from Bengaluru, there is this great city which is going to build, but the travel time could be just 1 hour. high-speed rail, whatever you may want to call it. Do you think that is...
We'll definitely see a lot of changes. I mean, we have already seen suburbs, right, which were not probably a part of a lot of these cities which have developed. Gurgaon is an example, actually. You have Bengaluru today, which is now
is it happening more pronounced in the policy circles, this conversation?
There is a lot of conversation in looking at what are the alternates that we have. Infrastructure is playing catch up for sure because of the speed of development. It's nothing to do with the intent, but the speed at which we are developing, because of all the reasons that we spoke about, they are playing catch up. But having said that, there is a genuine intent to make a change. We are seeing a lot of suburban cities crop up. We are seeing tier 2 cities also catching up. A lot more interest. But if you just go inside a building, and the way I see buildings or the urban infrastructure changing is probably today's day, all buildings or most buildings are smart. By smart, I mean digital. They can service, or they can call for a service themselves if there is a problem. There are maintenances, and today's day we use some of these technologies where, let's say a generator, for example, if we latch on some of our sensors onto that whole generator, it can send us a message or a mail to say, hey, this is not working in the optimum condition. If we continue to do like this, expect it could break down in, let's say, 1 week's time. That's what we mean by a smart building. A smart building, and another one which says optimum use of power, to say, you don't need so much power, switch off this, switch off that kind of stuff, and automatically controls itself. Put that to a larger city, right? You have small buildings like that, let's say 25 buildings like that, comprise together a city. And that's what you call as a smart city, right? Communicating with each other, easing out traffic to say, this is coming out, that's coming out. The level at which data and data management is going in, I think a lot of what we do will kind of...
Yeah, someone kind of asked me some time ago, and they said, so what's your view on India? I said, you touch anything, it's ready to be disrupted over and over again. So anything which got disrupted 4 years ago is ready to be disrupted today. And that's the potential.
Absolutely. And we're seeing this in every industry that you see. What is relevant last year is not relevant now and more. And, recently I was looking at some of these. A television took 75 years to reach 1 million viewers, right? Threads, I was told, took a few hours to reach 10 million. Just look at the speed. And just before Threads, you had Chat GPT, which did something like that. And just look at the speed at which... And these are not years apart. You have something that's coming twice in a year, thrice in a year.
And the adoption is literally within a week. In the world. And that's the most amazing thing. It scares you as well, but I think somebody said it, and we spoke about this earlier. He's saying, what is that one ability one should have? And I think Kunal Shah said it very beautifully. He's saying the ability to disrupt yourself within 24 hours of any aspect being disrupted. So you pivot and you go and adapt yourself within 24 hours. So the time span is no longer a week. And you were talking about between company A and company B, right?
It's not a week. I mean, it could be an hours away. You don't know where your next competition is coming from, how this whole industry is going to change, what's really happening. I think, if you ask me, that's one of the biggest leadership challenges that you have today. Your ability to work in this ambiguity, your ability to say, to look forward and continue to work around some of these complex VUCA, that's the term, right?
But again, when you're saying an effort, the camera is picking up ease. The camera is picking up that a man who has gone through a 30-year grind, it's very fluent. It's effortless. You don't have to think.
Content, for me, it's a struggle sometimes. I keep saying, Sandeep comes out as a natural. I mean, he's so good at it. I look at him with awe, but for me, it does take effort. But then...
See, I know him from some time, right? 15 years ago, he wasn't that way. 10 years ago, he wasn't that way. He said that?
He said that.
I'm telling you. You had to see me 3 years ago. I think I have literally done a Chat GPT 4 times over kind of a thing,
Yeah, but then all of us have our comfort zone.
Of course.
And a lot of it is about working and getting over those discomforts, right? Practice is the only way you can get out of your discomfort.
It's a skill.
The more you do it,
and it kind of comes naturally.
I mean, none of us came with the ability to walk when we were young.
True. Let's switch gears a little bit, Ajit. Tell me something. When you look at talent, right? The fact that there is that exponential growth, and the fact that companies like JLL will also fight for the right talent in the market, right? How do you look at the entire talent landscape today in India, especially to few, this could be an advisory consulting company. To few, this could be a completely hoteliering company, because you're running huge complexes and the service experiences of a hotel. To some, it could mean purely a real estate kind of company, right? How do you see the talent landscape evolving?
Okay. So I'll start with one small addition to that. We like ourselves to be a technology company in the world of real estate.
Oh, wow. Okay, so elaborate.
The amount of investment that JLL is doing on technology and future tools, we see ourselves to be an enabling company in terms of the whole real estate world. So that kind of...
the tech is
the
enabler for a better experience.
Yes. Experience, delivery,
got it.
Sustainability,
processes, whatever you
it's
want.
There across. Of our customers, of our end users, of, let's say, investors, occupiers, whoever it could be. It's in terms of decision making at all levels. So probably that's an addition to what you said.
Absolutely.
But yeah, talent. Now coming to talent, we were just talking about it some time back about how it's moved away from managing buildings to managing people. When I started off in facilities management, you were given a book, right? You would have said, okay, the temperature needs to be between 23 and 24. When you come on, switch this off. When you go off, switch that off.
Very process oriented.
It's a very process you had given that. Easy to do, because you could give it to
anybody and he would
just wo ho jata. Today's day, switching off, switching on, 23, 24, monitoring, all this thing is done by the equipment themselves. So where is the relevance of someone who's coming today? What's the relevance of an engineer, for example, today, right? Because if buildings are taking care of themselves, what does an engineer do? I think everyone is focused on giving that experience to people, right? And I did speak about it earlier when you asked me about the evolution of workspace. From transactional to experiential, this is where it comes to life, right? We're looking at people who can probably look at data, look at employees, connect with people, understand, and work around it to create an experience for people.
Reduce friction levels so that you have a seamless experience.
Absolutely. I mean, it's just about when someone comes in, how do I make this place the most productive place for someone to work out of, right? So we're looking for talent at that level. Is it readily available? Probably not. It's a way of thinking, like we spoke. It does require a little bit of work in terms of, let's probably the service industry. It's like a hotel, but only difference is your guests are the same every day, right? I mean, how do you make it the best experience for someone to come in? It is a front-ending job. It is a job that equipment are taking care of it. How do you get that equipment to understand what the user needs and then ensure that the equipment and the user are taken care of in a particular way? I think that skill set is what we are looking at. That's one. Whether it's, you could come from any background. Eventually, what's going to rule is the whole experience of someone coming in. And that's why we have also, over the last few years, moved in terms of looking at people from hotel background or probably a services background, could be from hospitals, could be from the airline industry. Where
is it because of customer centricity, or also as an added layer because they are more empathetical?
It's both. It's both. I mean, experiences can come only with empathy, right? I mean, unless I understand what you need, unless I understand why you need certain things, giving an experience, and you need to genuinely believe that, that person is doing something and I'm an enabling factor to that whole thing, and be proud of what you're doing. And I think that's what a hotelier comes with, or someone from an airline industry comes with,
country hospitality background.
It's a hospitality background.
No, and this is something which I've been talking about it for the longest time, that India is a services economy.
Yeah.
And if it's a services economy, at the end of the day, there is a customer. That customer is well served by a hospitality graduate.
Absolutely.
right? But we go through our education from science, tech, engineering, math. Of course, is education good? 100% must be good. But eventually, where you end up is serving a customer, right? But you have taken this long meandering route to come to that destination.
Yeah,
right.
With the newer technologies that are coming in, Kunal, I mean, just look at it. With ChatGPT, did I really need to learn E equals MC squared? Probably not, right? I can ask that question on ChatGPT, but how do I use that to serve a person? That comes only with the human aspect of the whole thing, and I think that's what
that human touch will never go.
If people are asking what's the job that's secure,
and I think everything is a human touch. If you look at it, at the end of the day, if there is a human being, has to be a human touch. Period. The tech can completely, I would say, give you that protection layer of ease of your own thing, but it's eventually is that human touch.
Right. And when we've heard this whole saying, right, my job has become mechanical. If your job's become mechanical, the machine's going to do it, period.
Yeah, true.
Right? There's no other way around.
Absolutely right.
That's what machines are being done.
Absolutely right. Yeah.
You need to make sure that your job's not mechanical.
Yeah, and for the ones who are lazy, you're so right. You just said it, nailed it. And to the audience, think about what he just said. He said, if your job is mechanical to you, 2 years later, the machine is going to take over. So true. And very deep.
Yeah. So this whole experience part cannot become mechanical because what I need today, tomorrow I'm coming for a different purpose. My ability to understand what you need, react to that, I think, I'm not saying it won't be there, probably could come our way, but at least I don't see that in the near future for sure.
And how do you see the JLL ISH pathway assisting in this? And that's very important even for the audiences to understand the fact that this is just not collaboration, right? There is something more deep to it and more depth to it. I can talk about it, but I think they'll be more intrigued if you talk about it. And how is it really going to help, and who should be looking at something like this?
I think we've explained it all along, and I've been saying the same thing, but I'll reiterate what I said. You could be whatever graduate you want, but the ability to understand and create curated experiences is something that you're not born with it. You learn it over a period of time, right? And organizations like ISH have been creating hospitality graduates for a long time, right? An experience like this with a combination of a practical experience where you apply and learn with JLL, I think that's the perfect mixture for us to get the ideal kind of candidates that we need for tomorrow, not even for today. People, ISH brings the whole experience aspect to the whole story. If you come and work with JLL, as you do the internship in programs like these, what really it helps you is to look at the technology that JLL has, the ability to interpret that, to create that experience that you've been focused to look at. And experience is nothing but a way of looking at things, right?
And when you're kind of changing the landscape, the fact that you're also funding a large part of their kind of a tuition fee, which also signals to everyone that, everyone is most welcome. This is a crazy industry. This is the industry which is growing and is going to grow pretty much. If India has to go to its $10 trillion, and to your point, if you have incrementally put 80 million square feet, that would be 800 million square feet in the next 5, 7, 8 years.
Yeah, and how much of equipment you put in, right? You eventually need people to run a lot of these spaces because these equipments can't interact with people the way we want it to interact and create those, like I said, curated experiences for people. There is going to be jobs for it, but our way of looking at things, our way of approaching things needs to move away from the word I use, mechanical, to something that's new, that we kind of curate and create those experiences.
I truly appreciate.
And even today we look at new roles that have come into us. Workplace ambassadors, right? From facility managers. Just look at the chef. Facility managers were people who took care of a facility. Workplace ambassadors are people who actually stand in front of you, take care of your.
And it's completely, and JLL has spawned a completely new avenue of work environment, in terms of job creation as well. And that's kind of beautiful. Any last thoughts, Ajit? I'm mindful of your time and everything, but I always say there is about 1 billion Indians listening to you, right? Any last thoughts towards them? Because I'm sure they're bombarded with a lot of advices coming in from a lot of people. But I genuinely, in your company, I believe that you have that aura, you have that, as I said it in the beginning as well, that some element of kindness in you and some element of the fact that, you have grown 25 years from where you were to where you have. What would you like to tell them, to the audiences, especially the youth?
Especially for the younger generation,
Yes.
I think a few things. Explore new stuff, right? Be curious of everything around you. I mean, always question. Keeps you young also. If you're continuously curious about, I think when you're younger, you're curious about what is this, what is that. I think keep that curiosity at work. But more importantly, focusing on JLL and ISH per se, this is an industry that's growing, and you spoke about it, 80 million square foot, number of jobs that are going to be
So
created. And these are front-end jobs.
Yeah.
These are not jobs which are managing machines like before, right? What we really need is different kind of people who have that ability to create those unique experiences.
Correct.
And I can tell you that, compared to what it was today, it pays well, gives you a great career path. I'm an example of the whole story of who shifted.
From an experienced executive to an experienced CEO, every element is served by JLL.
Yeah, so you have opportunities in organizations. Today, we are a 12,000 strong employee base in India.
116th, if I'm not mistaken, Fortune 500 ranking.
112.
112. Beautiful.
India. So it's big. So among the whatever great places to work, you can name it. It's there. There's a bit of branding, I could say, that for the industry, it's not a glamorous industry for people to come in. But I can tell you that everyone who's come in, me personally, very proud, very lucky to have actually taken this as a profession.
I think, glamorous also is a very overstated kind of a word. If you want glamorous, if you ask a Bollywood actor or a Tollywood actor, he'll say there's nothing glamorous about it. There's, except for endless wait in the van, for their makeup. The scenes are only about 2 minutes, so it totally different depends on the lens that you're kind of looking at. But I'm grateful for your time. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, Kunal. It's been a great.
No, thank you. Really appreciate it. And of course, to the audience, the progress happens especially at the institutional level when the industry is inside the classroom. And that's exactly what JLL has kind of done to us. Two ways. One, of course, is the collaboration, if you just kind of keep that aside. But the fact that we constantly interact with the JLL executives at a very senior level, and they come over here and they are part of the discourse of education as well. And that's really important to grow an institution, because without the industry, you are deemed to be, I would say, just an academic institution. You are advancing knowledge, but you're not advancing the real value. So before I sign off, as always, take care of yourself. Salam, Namaste, Sat Sri Akal, Adab, and because Ajit is from Bengaluru, Nama Bengaluru.